Hi everyone, we are back with episode 4 of the Far From Eden podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're returning, welcome back. If this is your first time, I hope you do find it enlightening enough to look up episode 1, 2, and 3. We've had some gems there, and as you already know, I'll be getting into some gray areas with my guests. Today I have my girl Lerato. We've come a long way. But she's here today to walk us through finding peace and, more importantly, maintaining it. Her mantra is protect your peace at all costs, and she has gone on such a long journey to get to a place where she can share some of these gems with you. I hope you do pick up a few things. I know I did. I had a lot to think about after we recorded this. But yeah, once again, please remember to subscribe, follow, like, and interact with us as much as you can on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and Facebook. Find all the handles in the comments and links on my social media pages. That said, let's get to this. And as usual, I guarantee you want to listen until the very end. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lerato. Guys, this is my friend Lerato. We've been friends for, gosh, I've known you for years. Probably, I've known you the longest out of all my friends, no?
It's about 14 years.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, so Lerato and I have been on and off friends since primary school, and then went into high school and got closer through debate. And, so, and we have so many stories we can tell you about a little red car.
That's a story for another day.
But I will just give Lerato a second to just give you a brief introduction on what she wants you guys to know about her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lerato Dube. I am Michelle's favorite friend. Basically, we've known each other since primary school. I am a political science student. I love fashion. I love dressing up. And yeah, I'm here to share some of my journey with you, and hopefully there's something you can take away from and add from it. So yeah.
Yeah, and we are talking about peace, as you already know at this point, which is, Lerato, the way she describes it is, this is my mantra. So she is very much about protecting the peace, and that's what we'll be talking about with it. And basically, to start, I would like you to give us an idea of where it came from. So where did you develop the fact that protecting your peace is your mantra or your life philosophy?
Okay, so it all started like early in my university journey. Like I was finding myself in a space whereby I was always anxious and always unsettled and always, kind of without peace, like I was just in a space where I wasn't peaceful. And if you've had a similar experience, you know that that's not a good place, like you're anxious, you're worried, you don't even know, So I started searching like where the problem was. And I started discovering that there were some things and some people and some places that were taking away my peace, that I was surrounding myself with unreliable people. And obviously, if you around people like that, you're always on guard. You're always, alert, like, will I need to do damage control now? Will I, also in places where I found that I was being expected to be something other than myself, so I listened to this sermon, I think it was by Joyce Meyer, and she was talking about peace, and that's when I had like the awakening that, I actually need to guard this thing, because the Bible also says that we should guard our hearts because from there flows all issues of life. So if your heart is not guarded, then which means there's chaos and all over your life. So yeah, that's where it came from. Like I was in a place that was very unpeaceful and I needed to get out. And I've started taking measures towards that goal of achieving peace. And yeah, I'm on the journey, and it's a process. It's a daily thing. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, like I find one aspect that you brought up really fascinating. The idea of looking at it and starting to read your environment and saying that, oh, this might be because I have what you classified as unreliable people or an unreliable environment that's just completely destabilizing you. But it's always easier after you realize what you have to cut out, right? But what's like the process that you went through to start realizing that this is, you know, because I know with these things personally for me, I try to look at other things to blame because maybe I'm not fully ready to cut off that aspect. And as long as you're doing that, it's very hard to navigate. But yeah, like how did that work for you?
So for me, you know, you've known me for a long time. I'm the happy kid, you know, I'm like, I don't take anything seriously. I'm always laughing. It's always a good time, even when I'm in trouble.
Vibes.
You know, it's always vibes. You know, but I started getting anxiety. Like it was bad, to the extent that I started getting sick, like physically sick. And then I went to the doctor and she was like, you need to start taking antidepressants. I'm like, nah, fam, you know, because there was nothing specific happening in my life. That like, there wasn't like a specific situation, like the reason why you're anxious is this, or the reason why you're almost depressed is this. I was just feeling unsettled, like, you know. So that was the turning point for me. Like, I just realized that I can't keep doing this to myself. This is like self-sabotage, you know, so I need to fix it. And yeah, that was when I started actively looking for the problem, listening to podcasts about fixing the problem. And yeah, so basically for me, it was like an extreme end. I got sick. I studied from home, like home. And this was pre-pandemic times. So it was, you know, a bit of a situation for me to realize that there's some things that I need to shift in my life. But
And then like from there, how has it worked for you in terms of like, so from what I understand, you had to really take yourself out of the environment and even go home. And then when you go home, that peace comes with it. Like, I don't know, being around my parents, it's a controlled environment. They've developed ways to keep peace for us, right? Now, when you come back into the normal environment, though, like, how is that transitioning back? Because you come back and it's typically the same people that you knew before, and they haven't changed, to be quite frank. You've changed a lot.
So I guess with the peace thing, it starts with removing yourself, like you said, you know. So if you've noticed, like from like 3 years back, I'm not as active on social media as I used to be. Like I was that person who was on everyone's, you know, comment section. Yeah, girl, yeah, boy, yeah, you know. But I had to remove myself from all of that and to kind of hear myself think and to kind of recenter and be like, who am I? What are my principles? What are my boundaries? What are my, you know, what are my goals? What's my vision? So I think for me, it started with removing myself, most especially from social media. That was a big step for me. Because now, like, I take regular 30-day breaks off social media. That's a part of my journey that's helped a lot. Like, I just log out. Like, when I feel like, you know, I'm losing track of myself, I just log out. And then I take that time that I could have been looking at girls, the perfect bodies and perfect skin and perfect what things that are feeding me with insecurity. I take that time to feed myself with sermons, to feed myself with podcasts, to feed myself motivational speeches, you know, things that actually feed into me. And I found that as I feed into myself, you know, I kind of get nourished and, you know, sort of step out of that toxic environment that I'm in. So yeah, when I got back home, it was obviously a bit weird because like at home I was like, oh, did you eat? Oh, have you done your homework? Oh, you know, but here you have to be there for yourself. You have to be, you know, you need to push yourself. And that's another thing that I learned. I learned to be my own friend. And that's like a very important thing, because I feel like another thing that contributed to me losing my peace is because I was busy being everybody else's friend that I forgot to be my own friend. You know, so I had to be my friend. You know, if let's say my friend is depressed and I would send her flowers, I had to get myself flowers, you know, to make myself feel better. I had to take myself for the eyelash appointment. I have to do my toes, I have to do my nails, you know, and just be there for myself and push myself and place myself in an environment that even if I introduce new people into it, it's peaceful, right? And if they're bringing toxicity or whatever that word is, I am able to identify it because it wasn't there when I was alone, you know, that type of thing. Because if your environment is already toxic, when other people bring more toxic behavior, you're unable to pick it out and be like, okay, this wasn't here before, this wasn't here. It then just becomes like a mixture of toxic everythings. So I just learned to remove whatever it is, the friend, the post, unfollow the person, block them if you have to, you know, just clean up my space and then take it from there.
You know, you say so much in this, in this part that I want to unpack with you, because given the fact that I know you so well, and you and I had very similar settings in terms of, remember our curfews?
Yo, girl.
You know, Lerato and I would find any way, guys, to just extend our curfew just by 1 hour, like just by. Anyway, why I even bring this up is I remember we even had a conversation about this the other day, that it was almost like peace was constructed for us. So our parents really put up these like barriers to make sure that at least at home our lives were peaceful. And then we had very limited interactions with people in terms of like figuring out whether a person is too toxic for you. You really had a cutoff point. It was automatic. By 6 o'clock, I'm away from you. So even if you disrupted a level of my peace, by the time I go home, that comes back, right? And what's interesting about that is you never had a chance to like construct that for yourself. So, and that's what one thing I found interesting about what you were just saying now, where if you were not presented with a toxic environment before, like a completely toxic environment before, you don't even know that you could potentially walk into a toxic environment. In your mind, it's been peace, peace, peace. So you think you can walk into any situation almost and find peace in it, which doesn't happen. It's almost like energy, like bad energy is much easier to pass around, almost like it moves faster with diffusion or whatever it is. Right? And what I guess what I'm trying to get at is we never had the opportunity to have to create that peace for ourselves. So we didn't have the mechanisms to walk into something and say, these are the barriers I should put up so that my peace is maintained, right? And then when toxicity walks in, it's almost like I can handle this because I've always been able to handle everything, everything else, you know. And so I guess the thing that I'm trying to get at with you is how was that pain of realizing that there's actually more than one type of energy in the world, and it's almost up to me to control that, because it's very nice to say now when you figured it out, right? But like, how was it like immersing yourself in the fact that there's more than one type of energy, and I represent maybe a minority of it? Yeah.
Girl, That was the worst thing ever, hey?
Uh,
Because I feel like we've had this conversation before, you know, of being different and being a genuine person and kind of assuming that everyone else is gonna throw back that energy at you, you know. But as I've grown up, I've come to realize that it's not really like that. And it reminds me of Maverick's podcast when he was saying that you have to look out for yourself before you look out for other people, you know, because oftentimes we get fixated about being the good person, you know, being the good friend, being the good girlfriend, being the good daughter, being the good whoever you are, that you forget to actually be good to yourself. You know, you're busy maintaining the good in other people's eyes, that you forget to actually be the good to yourself. You know, so it was really like a shock, like, oh, so people actually gonna do like this, you know. But upon introspection, I just then realized that nobody kind of owes me to give me back what I give them.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important for me to make sure that I already have it before I give it to, so that in the events that you don't give it back, I'm not like, oh, Michelle, you know, because I already had it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, it brings me to something else we talk about quite a lot as well, is the idea of being a low maintenance individual, right? And how that makes it hard even to protect your peace, because we've spoken about it at length before, where it's like you want very little from other people, right? But you're also very giving as an individual. So now how do you work around balancing that? Because sometimes it almost feels like you're, like, for me personally, I'm fighting a character trait when I try to clench my fist a little more, you know, because my hands are wide open. This is like my natural way is just, oh, you want to ride, get in the car. Oh, you want this, you know. So, but protecting your peace, like you said before, even the Bible says, like, protect your heart, right? Even if you are a person who wears your heart on your sleeve, you have been told to protect that, because you just must. But yeah, so how has it been for you navigating that, the idea that I'm not looking for much from people, but that also means that the fact that you don't have necessarily high standards for what you should be given, right, also means that it's very easy for people to come in and go. Yeah. So how has that worked for you, the standards wise, and being a naturally low maintenance person?
That's a very good question, because that was also one of the contributing factors to my lack of peace. You know, I found I was constantly giving, and then like receiving not even a tenth of what I was giving. And in the end, that dehydrated me and that exhausted me. And so now I'm very, because the truth is, right, people will never get tired of receiving. And I feel like I've told you this before.
Yeah.
Like if you're a person who's like giving people $1,000 every month, people won't be like, nah, Michelle, you know, how are your savings looking? You know, stop. People will always receive as long as you're willing to give, you know. But I've learned to kind of, first of all, I've learned to pour my best into the cups of people that also nourish me as well. So if you water me, and then I'll water you as well, type of situation. Because if you find yourselves watering, then you're going to be dehydrated. And from that, you can't even give yourself. You know, so it's important to be around people that also pour into you, whether it's emotionally, whether it's mentally, whether however it is that you are pouring out. It's important for you to also have a source that's pouring back in. So I've been intentional about that. Like the people in my life today, I would hope that the majority of them pour into me as I also pour into them. But then there's also some people that we give because we're givers, you know, and from those people, I've learned not to expect anything in return. Because sometimes what actually hurts is not that you gave, it's the expectation to get back.
Yeah.
So I've learned that if, we're acquaintances and you need $50 and I happen to have 50 extra, I'll give it to you, but I won't attach your loyalty to me onto that 50.
Exactly.
It's I'm doing it for the goodness of my heart because I had the opportunity to give and sow into your life. I'm gonna do that, but I'm not gonna expect you to be best friends forever or to be loyal to me or to, so expectation and intentionality with regards to people also pouring back into you, because I also find that, because I would like to think that I'm independent to a certain extent, so we tend to like shut people out. I'm like, nah, I got this, nah, I got this, nah, I got this, nah, I got this. But at the end of the day, it becomes exhausting to got everything,
Yeah.
So I've also learned how to be vulnerable and be like, you know what, guys, I can't carry all this that you're making me carry. Please, can you take time as well? Can you send the email on my behalf? Can you? And it's very good that I've got people in my life today that I can trust with such things and that I can, let know when life is getting too heavy for me. And they've got me in the same way that when they're carrying too much, I can also be like, okay, give me that. I hold for you whilst you sort out whatever you have now. So
well, it's very interesting how like protecting your peace is almost like in a way giving up control. It's like when you hear protect, it's like you feel like we should be talking about putting bricks up and walls up and this and
definitely.
that and that. Yeah, but it's almost like letting go of control over, like you said, the expectations that you have over how people treat you back after you treated them a certain way. It's like I'm giving this, but however it goes after I've given it is and then even in terms of like even yourself, like being able to say I'm tired, like I need assistance. And it's funny, I actually read something on that about how human beings are more likely to like people that allow them to help them. It's funny. So you're less likely to like someone who helps you as much as you like someone who you've helped. I don't know if it's like supposed to be a survival mechanism of some sort to make us more comfortable with like reaching out and giving more. But it's just really interesting how you have to give up aspects of control for you to actually have peace. And the balance is now difficult though, because it's like letting go of control to some extent, but also having to control the environment that you're immersing yourself in. But what I find interesting is once you control one, if you control the environment, you don't have to worry about everything else. Because it's as long as you're in the right place, the peace comes with it. And that's something that I think we should get into a little more. The environments, the triggers, the things that maybe are typical, because you did mention earlier that at some point you even have to take social media breaks. I don't know.
Definitely.
So is it like a very like people-centered thing for you, where you find that it's is it like certain characters, or is it certain, I don't know, environments? Is it like environments where there's alcohol? Is it just people? Is it the way people talk? Is it that gets you?
For me, when I'm feeling unsettled, I don't like noise. Like I just want to be able to hear myself think. So in my removing myself from social media and from certain groups of people, it's not because I've got a problem with Twitter or I've got a problem with Instagram. It's because I've got a problem with the voices that are coming from those platforms. They're not speaking into what I'm going through, and they're not pulling me out. Instead, they're pulling me into this toxic cycle of wasting my time and avoiding dealing with my problems by seeing other people's perfect lives and other people's perfect stories and other people's happy, I've graduated for the 4th time, but you're kind of the first time type of situation. So for me, that silencing, let's call it the silencing of my environment, is because I want to hear things that that pull me out of, that feeling of being unpeaceful and pull me into peace, So yeah, it's not like a people problem that I have problems with the people that follow me or the people that I follow. It's just that sometimes what you're going through kind of contradicts the narratives that are going around social media. So you need to kind of channel that and to get your thought processes in order. And then, I'm ready and strong again. You'll see me. Hi, guys. Look at my new shoes or whatever.
It's like trying to navigate understanding where you're not relatable. Like things are not relatable. It's just going to cause friction. So then how does it work as well, though? Like introducing like new aspects to your life. So like, even if you think about it because the level of like controlling of environment gets really comfortable. It's almost like once you get to that point where you're used to having your own quiet time at a certain time, or it makes it hard to develop like really close relationships that would infiltrate into that. Right? So for example, like getting a boyfriend, for example, becomes something that's more of a challenge, because it's not just a Michelle that you can knock out the door as soon as 6 o'clock hits, or like, bye. This is a person who becomes fully involved in your life, who, I don't know, the first text you see in the morning probably, and the last you see when you go to sleep. There's gonna be at least 3 to 4 days a week that you at least spend some time with this person over the years, etc. So how does it work when you're considering that for you? Like, do you have triggers that you can already tell that, oh, this would affect like peace, or is it at this point something that just seems disruptive all around?
Wait, are you asking me if I vet people before they enter my life?
Yeah.
That relationship situation is a bit tricky, but I feel like right now I don't want anything, I know how it feels to have lost my peace, and I don't want anything or anyone that is going to, like, what's the word? That's going to shake
distract you.
the equilibrium, where I am, so if I feel like your vibe is giving me, lack of peace vibes, then I'm sorry, bro. Please try somewhere else. Because there's some people that, and I feel like oftentimes we just overlook it and think, nah, I'm just being paranoid. Nah, but sometimes you really know from the onset that, nah, this person is doing me more harm than good. I'll give you an example. Like, for example, like guys who these are the first ones I don't even give a second text back. Like guys who make promises that they don't keep, because that's the issue of unreliable people that I was talking about at the beginning. That if you're unreliable at the stage that you're still trying to convince me that I'm the light of your world, then what happens when I become the light? Like it's just going to become worse. So I guess it does make things a bit difficult in the sense that the person coming into my life has to have their own peace. Not that I'm saying that you should become, before you become my peace, you should have your own peace as well. Like you should be in a good space in your head, in your career or whatever it is that you're up to at the time, so that when we merge lives, you're not bringing your disruptions into my life and I'm not bringing my disruptions into your life. But if we're both peaceful in our individual lives, then it makes it easy for us to come together, because then it's like one big piece collusion. It's not,
Mm, mm, mm.
you know, you bringing your dysfunction and me bringing my peace. It's like one big piece. And then from there, it's something healthy, something functional, something that doesn't stress me. If you say, I'm going to do your deliveries at 8, I know that no, Michelle's my guy and she's going
Mm,
to do it. But if
mm.
you are unreliable, then I already start panicking. Will my customers not
Yeah,
get their time because Michelle's unreliable? You know, that type of thing.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, I would say that it is difficult to let
Mm-hmm.
people in the relational aspect into that type of space, because obviously there's things that are definite no-nos and things that destroy peace. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Uh,
willing to compromise anything in the peace department.
it's almost like you become automatically like incompatible when that happens, because it's like
Mm,
it causes a lot of friction. Hey, when your mind and like your environment really matters, it's very difficult to you almost can't even put your finger on it. Like you're saying,
mm,
you just know
mm.
you it's very hard to say, oh, this person is bad for me because of this. But I don't know. It's a question. Like
And you're right. You're right. There's like a pulling, and you can feel it inside. And it's very unfortunate that sometimes we want to go with the flow to the extent that we meet a blockage and it's now blocked and
vibes.
it's now messy. You know, when you could
Mm,
have just, nah,
yeah.
sorry, you're a great person, but not
Uh-huh.
for me, you know.
And and it's difficult. I find a lot of people even disrupt. Like I've had conversations with people who even want to stifle their growth
Mhm.
in these like aspects in terms of like your emotional well-being, just so they're able to fit the
Mm,
like the norm of who they want to
mm,
be with. So it's almost like, oh, I have this type of mind who's very I don't know, like Lucius Lion level toxic. That's my type. That's what I want, right? And you find yourself growing out of it. It's like, yeah, I'm growing out of this. I want peace. I mean, but the
mm.
minute you meet that, you're like, but it wouldn't be so bad to just, just go with the flow. Just
Until Lucius puts you behind bars, then you
anyway,
have a
until you're doing 17 years.
you see. So I feel like once you master the environment, then like I said in the beginning, then when someone is bringing something that is destroying the ozone layer of your environment, then you're like, nah,
You can feel it. Yeah.
you know. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have like an environment built for yourself, then it's easy for
Mm-hmm.
you to let such things and such people in. So I guess peace is in the environment.
Yeah. Oh. Mhm. Which brings me to something interesting about like the concept of like the changes after you've maintained that. So like given an environment, right, it gets really comfortable. Like once you've set things up a certain way, that gets comfortable. But then what happens? Has it happened to you so far as well, where something that used to give you peace doesn't give you peace anymore? So it's not like a bad thing, because it's very easy to pick out like the toxic elements. For example, if you're a heavy drinker, right, you can actually tell that this alcohol is not sitting in my body as well as it used to. It doesn't give me it's not vibes anymore. It's actually like I do not know what's going on after I finish drinking this, right? But sometimes there are things that used to give you peace, like even if it was reading, and then all of a sudden it's now giving you a different level of anxiety. Sometimes it's even people where it's like there are friends who fit the in every context fit that norm that you want and that you've written down, but all of a sudden it's not fitting anymore. Has that happened? And how have we had to navigate that? Because yeah.
Yes. And so my place of finding peace in the past has been like interactions with people. Like if I'm feeling a bit low, I'll be like, yeah, let's go out for lunch, or yeah, no, let's go check out, the new spot at the mall, or, start. Usually when I start posting excessively, because I don't post a lot, but when I start posting excessively, like that's when I'm not at peace. That's when I need people to be like, oh, your skin is glowing, oh, your skin is like, that type of thing. So for me, it was interactions with people, and I have kind of outgrown that stage of my life where I needed people to make me feel good about myself. I don't know whether it was like the affirmations or but there was just something that when I was in like large crowds of people, and, I kind of felt at peace. But now the stage where I'm at in my life, I'm very, not as comfortable as to be like around lots of people. And I guess that's what you're talking about, the changes. And I mean, we're growing. There's methods that are gonna work for you. Like even, for example, in your academic career, when I started off, I used to take down lots of notes, like lots and lots of notes. But that stopped working for me because I realized that I ended up just writing things passively without taking them in. So I started looking for other study methods that work for me. And it's not like the writing doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me anymore. It's a purpose, and now it's through. So I feel like detaching yourself from people and things is a good remedy for the changes. Like if you're not attached to certain circles of people that make you feel great, once you outgrow them, you won't have a challenge, adapting and being by yourself. If you use social media to bring your peace, when you don't have data, it won't be an issue like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are my major changes, like interactions with people. Like now I don't even talk, like a lot. Even when I'm at home, my parents are like, oh, are you okay? I'm perfectly fine. This is just who I've become, and this is what works for me now. And in the future, if I become, outspoken and outgoing and, then that's great. But I just learned not to attach myself to places and to people and to even stages or phases of myself, like who I am in the moment. Like just allow myself to change as long as it's in a positive way, then good to go.
And that brings me to thinking about something interesting, where when you change that, when you develop that, because I think we hadn't spoken in a couple of years or so, and then we had a phone call the other day and ended up talking for hours. And honestly, the person I spoke to last and the person you are now are very different people, right? And probably vice versa as well. But however, it brings me to thinking about what you just said about your parents, where it's like, it's like, are you okay? Because you formed an identity, right? As a more extroverted, we keep saying vibes, person. Which if once Lerato arrives, she's going to be the life of the party, And then you always did it more naturally, like he just had more energy than definitely me. But what it brings me to thinking about, though, is the identity that people have in their minds of you, and then they obviously keep with like the best intentions, right? But now you come back as a different person to them, and then it almost becomes a form of temptation, because I don't know who you are now, but I'll come back to you looking for the Lerato I knew 2 years ago, who those things that used to bring you peace don't bring you peace anymore. But they're also very easy to slip into sometimes, to slip back into, because there's a level of nostalgia that comes with it. Like, let's be honest, it's not. This is not easy.
True. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah. So, like, how do you deal with the temptation of wanting to go back to that identity, because there's good things about it. Like there's really, really good things about being the life of the party and the way people remember you like that. But at the same time, that's not where you are now. However, when someone like me comes back in who has no idea the amount of work that you put in, it's not me trying to like drag you back. I literally think I'm just, looking for my friend. Yeah. And how do you deal with that?
I think self-discipline, and being centered in yourself, like just remembering the why you're not that person anymore is important. Because for me, why I'm not that person anymore is because I realized that I was relying on people to tell me, oh, you're so funny, oh, you're so cute, oh, you're so, and that was like my energy. That was like my peace that, at least society accepts me, But now I realize that I don't need that. As long as I accept me, as long as I'm happy with me, as long as I'm working on myself and I know what I'm doing. Because also in being a people's person, you also tend to want to maintain what they think you are, So for me, that doesn't work anymore. Like I'm really not even fazed about proving that I've got the latest, phone, the latest car, the latest guy, the latest whatever. As long as I'm at peace, and I'm happy where I am, then it's fine. But the temptation of other people wanting to drag me there, like, let's go live on Instagram, let's go. It's just a matter of knowing why you're not there and, be like, nah, friend, Instagram lives don't make me comfortable the way they used to, or I'm not happy going there. I feel like also with this whole changes thing, it's important to communicate to people that I'm not there anymore. Because you might leave a lot of people in shock, like, oh my God, what has happened to Michelle, or what has happened to Lerato? So it's important to communicate and let people know where you're at. Like, nah, I used to be able to talk nonstop for 12 hours, but now, 30 minutes is fine, and I'm good.
I'm tired.
So yeah, like, just communicate to the person. The temptation is obviously going to be there. It also doesn't even have to be a situation of making it general, like to my situation, like what if people want to take you out, or what if, what. But it can be like having toxic friends that worked for you back then, the friend that would make you not go back home. There's temptation to always go back to that if finding peace and being peaceful isn't working out, But it's all about remembering the why. Just that commitment, because I made a commitment to myself. I said, I never want to lose my peace again. And I feel like that's what found it.
Yeah.
Because it's a commitment to myself. Like, I know that, and obviously I was fortunate enough to have seen the repercussions of not having peace. So there's also that to remind me that, remember where you were that year? If you don't get it together, you'll be back there again. So it's like a self-control issue, I would say.
Yeah, and the thing that I find interesting about you, and you've always had this ability to remember how something felt. And we always used to touch on this because I'm very, I have like a fleeting memory when it comes to negatives.
I know.
Like, I know. And like, you've always been the friend that stays angry on my behalf, because I let things go. I don't even know where it developed from. And I remember a lot of things, but I tend not to remember pain. Like it just goes that poof. And there's a day I was looking at myself in the mirror recently, actually. And I looked at myself and I was like, I never ever in my life want to feel like this again. And I looked at myself, I was like, I want you to remember this exact moment and how you looked in it. I think I'd just come out of the shower actually, and I was like, I was holding on to my towel like a little baby. It
Uh-huh.
was the funniest thing. It wasn't funny. It's funny now, but I was like, I looked at myself. I was like, I want you to remember how you felt in this moment, and how you never want to feel like this again,
Mm, mm,
right?
mm.
And the thing is that what I guess what I'm trying to get to now is it more, and there's different approaches for this. So it's there's a lot of how you interpret a situation as well. That governs how much pain you derive from it, or how it affects your peace, right? And then there's also just the fact that like some situations will take away your peace whether you want it or not. But sometimes
Mhm.
there's a lot of like the way you process information that actually takes away whether you're here or you're there. And I think that's the issue for a lot of people, where if I'm at home, and I'm allowing my thoughts to come across in this cyclical way, right? That's when I come out, it's going to be the same thing where I'm now there, in that environment, but those thoughts are coming with me as well. And then I go back home with the same thoughts that I left the house with, and now on top of them are like reaffirmations of what I feel like, because I'm looking for self-fulfilling prophecies everywhere I go, right? So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, for you, like, how important has been the how you process information and the objectivity that you allow yourself to give, in the sense that things do happen and people do mess up, right? And you kind of have to be objective about that to some extent, but at the same time balancing the fact that sometimes you're like, you're just not the person for me, and learning to forgive that. So I think I fall maybe too much on the forgiving side of things, and not too like not enough on the holding you accountable, but it gives me peace. That's the thing,
Uh-huh.
because if I forgive people for apologies that I never received, I'm the only one who gains from it. Like
Mhm.
I can sit by myself and I look at it and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Hmm, I
Mhm.
it takes longer, I guess, but it's more permanent, like
Mhm.
for me from my perspective." But anyway, yeah, I'm just throwing the question back at you, like based on
Mhm.
your experience, even with me, with like the opposite on those sides. But to what
Mhm.
extent do you need to get that balance right? And yeah.
Are we talking about people in general?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I feel like, well, for me, I've learned to differentiate between mistakes and decisions, because
Mm,
there's sometimes where you can tell that no, Michelle hurt me by mistake. She didn't mean to, it wasn't her intention. Then there I'm willing to, forgive and keep the friendship going. But
mm.
if you are going out of your way to, for example, badmouth me behind my back, then I forgive you. Then you go back, you look for different people to tell this time. Then I forgive you. Then I mean, then it's now a decision. It's not a
Mm,
mistake. It's not like, I made a mistake. I was too happy. Then the information kind of slipped
slip.
out. It's now
Yeah.
you are deciding to
Yeah.
find yourself groups of people
Mm,
that want to have conversations about me. And in that instance, not that I'm saying that I can't forgive you, I will forgive you, but then forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation.
mm,
And
mm.
like it's important to make that
Distinctive.
differentiation, because also I
Mm,
think I also kind of had a similar issue where I felt like, okay, since I've forgiven um, X, Y, and Z, then we should be friends in the same manner that we were. But sometimes it just doesn't work like that. I can
yeah.
forgive you, but then because talking about people is natural to you, it's something that you don't even think twice about, and that's something that takes away my peace, then
Mm,
we can't be friends in the same manner that we used to. I mean,
mm,
we can be civil with each other, but then I need to keep you at a certain distance. You
mm.
can't have access to me in the same way that you had in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the that's how I deal with such things. If it's
Yeah.
a mistake, we talk about it, we iron it out, we sort it out, we keep it pushing. If you keep deciding that my inconvenience doesn't bother you, then
Yeah. I hear that. I like what you said about how like forgiveness is not always equal to reconciliation, and it's yeah. I really like that. I really like that. Anyway.
Not you reflecting in the middle of
bro.
You're having a slideshow.
Some hectic flashbacks. Anyway, and so yeah, like going back to the drinking from the right place aspects. Like you spoke about like watering people, watering yourself, and so on. Yeah, so people are not the only element. Obviously with these things, yeah. And then you were talking about like being very conscious about the information that you take in, and etc. etc. Now we live in a life where in a world where the masses are very loud, and we've spoken about this at length before, where the masses are very, very loud. So you do these things like consciously for a period, and you like get out of it, and then you come back. How does it work for you though, in terms of just how rare it is? So like maintaining that in a life where everything else disapproves of what you're talking about. And it almost seems like the thing that should be normal is the abnormal. And so this should be normal. Like everyone should be at this level of peace. And if they understood it, they'll be happier. But you can't teach people that. Right? So like how do you navigate that aspect of it? Like because like I said before, it's nice in a sense, and you get comfortable with your own company, yes. But there are times that you really wish you could be understood by a human being that you can see it, and that or by more people at the very least, or that you wish you could actually like transform your entire social media and have everyone on it think like you. Like there are times when you really, really want that. Yeah. So like how do you work around moments like that where all you crave is relatability but you're not finding it?
Ooh, I guess the way I've dealt with it is obviously because initially when I was younger, I used to think that my being different, I've always been different. I always, I'm not the peer pressure type of kid, I just do what I, is right. No one can convince me otherwise. And at first I used to be like, why am I like that? Why can't I also enjoy, going with the crowd and everything? But I've learned to accept myself. I feel like that's the big issue, because part of wanting to be relatable is wanting approval and people to be like, oh, you're doing well. Like what I've been saying throughout, like, oh, you're such a great kid. Oh, you good sister or whatever. But once you are comfortable and once you accept yourself that, what, I'm not like the world. I'm built different. I'm created different. My light shines different in comparison to everybody else's. Once you embody that and once you wear that as a badge of honor, then, not being relatable shouldn't be an issue. However, we don't live in a vacuum. We live around people. So it's important for you to find people that feed into whatever it is. But what I've actually found is that I won't always find the one friend who's perfect at everything, the one friend who's a good listener, who we've got this fashion sense, who we like listening to the same pastor, who we go to the same church, who we, like all those things that will be ideal to find in a friend. So I've got friends that we have the same fashion taste and they're they water me in that aspect. I've got friends that I go to when I need spiritual upliftment because they water me in that sense. I've got friends that water me academically because, I need them in that sense. So I've gotten rid of the idea of having like the perfect friend or the perfect squad, perfect. But I realized that everybody has something different to bring to me, and I've got something different to bring to them, in the same way that I can be, the advice friend. I may not go with you to the party to drink and get high, but I can be the friend that will always give you, good advice, the friend that will drop you a prayer or a verse or whatever it is. So I myself am not everything to someone, and I've also realized that other people cannot be everything to me. So I have to be, kind of like channeling what I can get from you and what I can give back to you, and see how that kind of fits in with the peaceful life that I'm trying to live.
And I think that's super important because and it also requires a lot of knowing what you actually need or want from different people, because a lot of us are walking into these friendships or these relationships with no idea, mostly knowing what you don't like. So all the things that you're checking off, oh, I don't want this, but you have no idea what you're actually looking for from different people. And it's a lot of pressure because now it's almost like you can even meet people who maybe should contribute to your peace, but you have not given them any guidance whatsoever as to where to start with you, so they have they have the right tools, they have the right character traits and so on, but you haven't given them anything to go by so that they know that this is what you actually want. So they're also just shooting blanks. The same, and then you are not getting enough from them, and now you're mad that you're but you actually as a person haven't given yourself the enough time or the self-knowledge enough to say, oh, from Lerato I want this, from this person I can expect this, from Michelle I can expect this, or even taking the time to get to know Michelle and say that she's not ill-intentioned, but she actually cannot give me this. Even if she tries, she might be the advisor for other people, but she's definitely not the advisor for me. And she can give the advice, it's fine, I'll listen to it because it's coming from a place of caring. But I should never walk away and say, oh, she was aiming at disrupting my peace, because that wasn't her goal. You just what she's giving is not what you want or what you need, and you need to be able to derive that for yourself, or else you can't be objective in these situations. And
it's important to know what you need, to know what enhances your environment or your personality, because also I feel like we've also spoken about this, about not knowing what we don't want, but not exactly being able to pinpoint that this is exactly what I want. So I'm still working on that. I guess that's my Eden, and I'm a little far from it.
Just slide it
in. But I feel like that's one thing that I'm working on. I mean, as I'm speaking, I'm sure, it's kind of easy to assume that, oh, she's found her peace. She's, but it's a journey, and every day brings new steps and new hurdles and new setbacks and new temptations and new progress. So I guess that's a key point that I should work on a bit more. Because
I find it interesting, even on social media, the pressure that people put. There's so many people who are just bitter, who are like, hey, who's checked on you today?
Bruh. Did you check on anyone today? That's the big question.
Yeah, I see things like that so much, and I'm like, your people don't even know that you're the type of person who needs that constant attention, right? And even if they do, and they normally give it, maybe right now you should be the one to check on them and see if something is going wrong. But there's so much of a me thing, and this expectation that when I meet you, and I say this about relationships all the time, We were not raised in the same house. When I meet you, I am not going to know what your love language is, or what your mom said to your dad that maybe has triggered a whole like commitment issue for you. You actually have to work me through these things, so I know what not to say and what to say. What words of affirmation you need or don't need. Do you want to be complimented, or do you cringe at it? Like you actually have to teach. You have to teach people that. And if you're not at peace with yourself, it's almost like you're expecting someone else to teach you how you want to be loved, which is, and then we
Not
walk out and you say, oh, this person was trash.
okay.
But you failed to use a good tool for your benefit. That's clearly it. The scissors were sharp and everything, but you failed to hold it the right way.
Yo, that's deep. Very deep.
Are you having flashbacks now?
No, I'm just like, did I not use that scissors correctly? But I mean, we live and we learn.
What's yours is yours, my friend. The scissors will come back.
They come to cuts.
Anyway, I guess we've basically reached the end of our hours together. And before we head out, do you have any last words that you'd really like to say, or something that you didn't dive into that you really want to put out there?
In conclusion, I just want, to tell the people that are listening to this that it's a journey, guys. Don't be too hard on yourself, and just take time out to discover who you are, what your values are, who you want to be. And that's literally the starting point. Because sometimes, I remember feeling overwhelmed by where I was, like, where do I even start fixing this mess? How did I even get here? But it's just a matter of pinpointing, like, this is where I want to go. This is where I'm at. This is where I went wrong. This is how I go back to the initial path that leads me to where I want to go. And don't be afraid to let go of things, people, habits that hinder you from being peaceful and from being where you want to be. Because the longer you hold on to what's not meant for you, the longer you delay what is. So the longer you stay in the unpeaceful place, the longer it takes you to get to the destination of peace. So that's all I have to say. Is there anything else you'd like to comment on?
If I start commenting on what you just said, we will be here another hour. So I am going to leave it there for you guys. And if you've been listening up until now, thank you so much for listening. I'm pretty sure that there's some gems that you've taken away from this. And thank you again, Lerato, for joining me today and being open and vulnerable about your journey to Eden.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. It was like a therapy session with everyone watching.
There's no privacy in our land anymore. Yeah, and I will share Lerato's social media details if she's comfortable. They will be added to the descriptions of the episodes and etc. etc. And yeah, she also has a store, guys, so support it, especially if you're in South Africa. I will also add the details to that on the video descriptions. For now, guys, take care.